Well, unfortunately, they blew it up. Third iteration is no longer the GOAT. My GOAT is washed. It served a purpose. It carried me through the entire legendary campaign, and now it is fixed. It brings a tear to my eye because it was the example of, hey, here's what primary weapons can be. You don't need to run a double special heavy all the time. You can actually have a primary weapon, an exotic that feels exotic instead of, just being your regular flavor of the month seasonal weapon or rocket sidearm or whatever it is. It felt good to actually use something that could kill things in a reasonable amount of time. It isn't all bad news. It isn't all bad news for third iteration because it is working as intended in part of the way that we were using it before. Means that it'll still kinda be outputting the same amount of damage. So for those of you who aren't in the know, the bug with this weapon essentially was as followed. Whenever you had anti-barrier rounds active on third iteration, anti-barrier rounds could come from any source, being the seasonal artifact, radiant, volatile rounds. If it applied anti-barrier functionality to third iteration, whenever you hip fired the weapon, your rounds, when they hit the target, would change their damage classification to that of an aggressive frame shotgun. So instead of having a unique damage profile of a scout rifle, a brand new exotic, a kind of in a crafting way defaulted to an aggressive frame shotgun, which is what I guess this thing is coded based off of, and how they were able to get the projectiles to work is they said, fuck it, let's make it a 3 pellet shotgun. Now, this only happened whenever you were hip firing. So if you were using the weapon as a slug, you were taking your time shooting slow, aiming down sights, charging, and then hitting that mark, that damage was unaffected. Your damage whenever you were aiming down sights was unaffected. So what we were doing before is we were marking a target to get that 30% bonus damage, and then we were hip firing the enemy, getting all that crazy extra damage. That's not intentional. So if you were only using this thing by aiming down sights, you're pretty much not gonna notice a difference. But now it is actually fixed. The gameplay loop is to, as follows, as I'm doing on screen. You shoot something with the projectile, you get the true sight, you get the invisibility, and then if it survives that initial tag, you can do one of two things. You can either shoot it and then try to hip fire it, but you're gonna miss a lot of shots by hip firing, or you can just aim down sights and shoot at the enemy. Now, as of the time I'm making this video, it hasn't even been 2 hours since this thing was nerfed, but in my infinite wisdom, I can see that this thing is going to be a serviceable exotic. It's not going to be better than anything like, Sunshot, maybe Graviton Spike in terms of utility, but it is always going to be there as an exotic. You say to yourself, okay, well, I want something void, don't know what to run, have an exotic slot open. Third iteration, it's still going to be useful. It's still going to be useful in endgame activity because, this gun does have a lot of utility, and it is, relatively fun to use. It's something unique that we haven't seen before. So I'm not entirely convinced that fixing this weapon is going to be the death of it. The only thing that I have noticed is that it isn't as easy to clear the to clear content as it was before. We saw some videos. We saw some videos on Monday of people going into Desert Perpetual with third iteration and clearing the final boss. I genuinely do not think that this thing is going to be able to solo any raid bosses anymore by itself. It's an exotic primary. It was never supposed to be soloing raid bosses. That's not what its purpose is. Its purpose is very utility based, very sneaky based. On screen, you're seeing some gameplay with third iteration where, I took it into a random battleground delve, one of the seasonal activities. The modifiers weren't doing me any favors. The negatives weren't doing me any favors, and you're really just looking at a quick and dirty damage calculation. This thing before would have absolutely fried this boss. It is a large target where your pellets can over-penetrate and hit multiple times, and, since it's now actually doing scout rifle damage, just as a pellet scout rifle, it isn't as effective as it was before. You're definitely only going to be looking to use it aiming down sights to get the pellets conjoined, and only then after using the actual mark in a target. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I'm still going to use it myself. You know, I main Void Hunter a little bit less now that that the power system has changed. And taking it into the firing range just for some quick and dirty calculations against a couple of the bosses, I found that yes, you're still getting the 30% damage increase for marking, and you know, your precision damage multiplier is still higher than your body shot multiplier if you're hitting the marked targets, whereas previously you would shoot the target with the mark and then it genuinely wouldn't matter where you hit them. You generally just wanted to aim for the squishiest part of the opponent where your projectiles could overpenetrate. Now, that is not the case. Your projectiles aren't getting overridden into a completely different archetype firing as a scout rifle. So, is it dead? No, it's just working as intended. Part of me wishes that they would have disabled third iteration as soon as it was discovered that there was a bug with the weapon, and so it could have been fixed, because now, in my mind, I'm kind of ruined. Like, I'm just used to this thing being absolutely goated. Now, we've seen, you know, different cycles of weapons come, go, being the, you know, most dominant in their class, period, to use everywhere in the game. Your recluses, your mountaintops. And, you know, nowadays those weapons are okay, but they do not feel anywhere near what their peak is. The bug that this thing had, it was so short-lived. I think that eventually I'm going to be able to cope with this thing not being good. But yeah, my goat's washed. I'm not going to extend this any longer than I need to. Rest in peace. I am holding a funeral for third iteration tonight. Thank you for listening to me yap, and have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.